I think that the main theme of this video is going to be reinforcement. When you believe that you are undeserving of love, right? You probably learn a belief at some point in your life, rather early on, right? And then again, you just continue to choose objects, meaning people. You place them in your life and they reinforce that belief that you are undeserving of love. Are you actually undeserving of love? No, you're not. You just learned a belief that you are, and because that became comfortable and familiar, repetition compulsion, you just continue to choose objects that reinforce that. But to dive into the fabric of the experiences of what it feels like to believe that you are undeserving of love, intermittent affection, not consistent, right? You're told that you are loved, or I love you, right? And then you're told the exact opposite, I don't love you, right? All the while, by the way, doing hardly anything to have that switch take place. And when I say hardly doing anything, I mean, like, you breathe. And all of a sudden that becomes something of wrongdoing, right? And it's like, all of a sudden the I love you is no longer there. Or the affection, the love in and of itself is no longer there. Yeah, I want to just kind of dive into the fabric of, the belief that a person is not deserving of love or of being loved. And the other thing I want to talk about too is that, there's a strange high that I have experienced. It's a very strange high of being in a relationship with somebody where the love is there, but then it gets taken away. And then, like, you kind of get sucked into this dynamic where you feel like, well, not just feel, like you learn that you have to do or say things in order to get that love back, right? And it fucking sucks. It really does, because it distracts you from yourself. It's not healthy. One of the most important aspects of this video that I want to make clear is that dynamics like this are not healthy. And I've experienced them. Years ago, I was actually in a relationship with somebody. No names, of course. But I just remember feeling like I had to try harder and to do more things to be loved by the person. And I remember actually also being a year into the relationship and the person telling me that they didn't know if they loved me, right? And, I mean, at around a year, I'm pretty sure that at least both people should know, right, that they love each other. But the theme of my life in terms of relationships, I'm not here to focus on one relationship. The theme of my life in terms of relationships has really been, and by the way, I'm not at all playing victim here. What I'm actually doing is recognizing my own shit as well, and what I give into, and my own tendencies to contribute in unhealthy ways to these dynamics, where, it's like, what ends up happening is I try to figure out what I need to do, what I can do to, get somebody to love me, or to get somebody to love me more. Which is fascinating, because that's a trauma response. That's a matter of repetition compulsion on my end. Nobody is really undeserving of love. And it's definitely not a healthy dynamic if you find yourself in a position with somebody where you feel like you need to do a lot of things, right? if you feel like you need to change yourself as a person, if you feel like you need to do things that are not authentic to you, that's not, I'm not going to call it not love. I'm not going to invalidate people's feelings and experiences, but what I'm going to call it is an unhealthy dynamic. And if you want to call it love, you can call it whatever you want to. With that, I'll call it unhealthy love. I know what it's like to do a bunch of things in hopes that I will be loved more, or to be inauthentic in hopes that I will be loved more. Have you ever had somebody tell you that you're perfectly fine as you are and that you don't ever have to change? And they'll love you as you are? Bullshit. Yeah, that's just not, that's fucking ridiculous. Yeah, I find myself reflecting a lot on my life and a lot on relationships and just what I've experienced in terms of love, and just how much I feel like I've had to prove myself to be loved. I've had to do things to be loved. If somebody doesn't love you as you are right now, and instead they love you based on a, like, potential of you in the future, that's not healthy. A person is to love you for who you are now, right? And not have that be based on who you could be in the future, right? Yeah, it's just a really fucked up and unhealthy dynamic. Otherwise, it really is. And it hurts. It really does. It hurts to be in a dynamic where you feel like you constantly have to do things and you have to change this, that, and the other. I remember one time I was in a relationship with somebody back in high school, and like the only way that I could be with that person was if I was going to college. And I mean, you know, like, I guess to each his own. You can believe whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, you can have whatever standards you want. I don't fucking buy it. I really don't. I think that if you're gonna love somebody, you're gonna fucking love them, and that's not conditionally based around, you know, what they're doing. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, what a person's doing is important, but that matters more so in terms of the actual fucking relationship. At some point, I think that it starts to become much more of like a narcissistic extension thing, where it's like, oh, you're making me look bad by not going to college, so therefore we can't be together. Yeah, that's like, somebody's basically a narcissistic extension of somebody else, because they don't love you for who you are, they love you for your status. Or it's not that they love you, they're with you for your status. And if you don't have a high status, then, you know. And so, again, just to go back to the whole reinforcement part, I'll end off with that, because that's a majority of what this is about. Continuing to choose people like this is further reinforcement that that is what a person deserves. And it's just not accurate, it's not true, right? But again, that consistent reinforcement over and over and over and over and over again, it just contributes to the same plot that, oh, love does not exist for me unless the dynamic looks like this, and I have to do this, that, and the other. I have to jump through fucking hoops. I have to, you know, dance. I have to perform this way. I have to be going to college. I have to be making X amount of money. I have to be doing this, that. No. No. I'm not going to call it not love, but what I am going to call it is unhealthy. And it's just as simple as that. So when you believe that you are undeserving of love, it's likely because you've experienced somewhat of that type of dynamic. And that sucks. It's not fun for anybody. And it's definitely not healthy.